What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Victory Podcast. I'm your host, Steve McGrath, and this week we are joined by Bo Scaife. Now, Bo had a 7-year career in the NFL, mostly with the Tennessee Titans. He came out of the University of Texas, where he was a tight end, played with Vince Young and Mac Brown during their glory days. And when he was with the Titans, he was last week's guest, Ben Troop's teammate. So Bo talked about his time at the University of Texas, overcoming a couple of injuries, and all of what he accomplished during the NFL. After that, Bo went on to get his MBA, which he talked about, and what he did afterwards, just navigating life after football. So during our conversation, it got a little choppy at the end, so I apologize. We did have to piecework a little bit of the last couple of minutes together. We did our best. But before we get to that, just as a reminder, we are brought to you by Team Builder. Team Builder provides strength and conditioning software to more than 500 high school football programs nationwide, as well as the NFL. So whether you write your own programs, have a full-time strength coach, or need training programs, Team Builder can make your weight room more efficient, more accountable, and smarter when it comes to measuring your team's progress. So right now, Team Builder is still offering a free 10-week spread offense tempo training program when you start a 14-day free trial at teambuilder.com when you use the promo code VICTORY. And that's Team Builder, TEAMBUILDR. So without any further ado, here's our conversation with Bo Scaife. Bo, thank you so much for coming on and taking the time today. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you guys for the invite. Great thing you guys got going on right now.
Certainly appreciate that. And with you on, we're going to keep the ball rolling. You know, we just had on Ben Troop, so we talked a little bit of Tennessee Titans football, so it's fresh in my mind. But before I wanted to get into those days, I wanted to walk it back to when you're a high school athlete. And if my research is correct, you did mixed martial arts through your childhood. You were a baseball player in high school, and obviously, as we know, a football player. So how ultimately, take us through your middle school, high school years. How did football sort of emerge for you as your number one route, and how did being a multi-sport athlete kind of help you develop overall?
Well, I was just a real active kid growing up. So, my parents just allowed me to dabble in everything. I started with martial arts, and that's kind of what gave me the foundation of, being a good athlete. It really polished my hand or eye coordination and just helped me develop so many skills as far as being an athlete. So, that was kind of the first thing I started doing. Then I started playing baseball, football, hooping a little bit, and just became all around athlete. I wanted to be Bo Jackson. I wanted to be Dion. Those are my two favorite athletes growing up, and I kind of always wanted to model myself after them and do the things that they were doing. And I used to love that Bo knows this, Bo knows that shirt. So I would wear that shirt every single day. Growing up as a kid because I was just fascinated with Bo Jackson, and I had the same name as him.
I was about to ask, is that how the nickname Bo came about?
Yeah, that's definitely one of the reasons my parents decided on Bo. There was some other backstory behind it, but when they seen Bo Jackson and what he was doing, it just obviously fit for them, and they let me run with it.
Yeah, and those Bo nose shirts, I mean, that's like an iconic moment in culture. We certainly would love to see those revived. Now, when I was looking, though, of course, we do know that you were parade All-American. So, you developed into a real good football player at an early age, but you had a couple of knee injuries, two of those being in college. How much or how did you develop a mindset of, you have all this talent and then you're sort of dealt this hand where you have to sit out and you have to rehab. And again, as I said, it happened two more times in college. How much did you have to deal with injuries? Did it ever really deter you from pursuing that path? I mean, 3 ACL injuries before you were a pro. I mean, it certainly could have, put some doubts in your head.
Oh, it definitely put my doubts in my head. It put doubts in the people I was associated with. So there was a big burden that was placed on me. And life is all about pressure and adversity and obstacles. So when you're that age, you don't really look at it like that now. But that's what it was. It was just a test. And anything that you love and care about and that you want to pursue, you're going to get tested. For so obviously you don't want to see those things in the game of sports, injuries and stuff, but it's a part of it, and it really tests how committed you are to that. um there was a time when I was at Texas, and when it kept happening, I just got in a real dark place. I was suffering from depression. I was ready to call it quits, real emotional. Mac Brown even told me that, asked me if I wanted to quit. And so there was a lot of factors that were pushing me to, just push everything down and throw it all away and find another route. And it could have been a whole different story for me, but there was just something inside of me that never left, that was always in my head and telling me to push forward and to keep grinding for it, because I just love football so much. I loved the guys I was playing with and the sport itself so much, and I could never ever put it down. And for some reason, I just always kept this unique skill set that just allowed me to be productive everywhere, no matter how I was getting hurt. I mean, I'm not supposed to be as fast and as strong as I was after all those injuries, but I was able to find a way and find my niche in the game. And I really developed a strong mental part of my game during that period of time, because obviously I was hurt, so I had a lot of time to think about the game and the kind of player I wanted to be, and what was going to make me unique and how I was going to be able to bounce back through all those things.
Yeah, and Bo, you talk about being in that dark place. I coach a kid here in Massachusetts, high school football, and he's same thing. He's going through now. He's only a sophomore in high school, but he's going through some of the same thing where he's got that knee injury. He's got to work back from it, and it's a long, grueling process. Can you talk about what kind of positive things that you went through, or what kind of outside help that you had from people to get back on the field and be 100%?
Well, one of the things that really changed and detoured me from, following down that path and not giving it up was, I almost flunked out of school during that time.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember coming home and I had got like a 1.6. And, I was probably getting ready to go on academic probation. And I just remember how upset my parents were, and just seeing them, how sad and hurtful they were from that situation. And, them really showing me like, man, I'm wasting this opportunity to at least, graduate from a good school and be able to bounce back and be a part of a good network. So, just rearranging my thought process on the whole situation really changed that. And, I just believed. I really, for some reason, have always had this belief in myself, that allowed me to push forward and fight through things. And it's always been so strong and helpful for me. And it's been one of the big, unique hands that I've been dealt and gifts that I got, is just that belief in myself.
Mm.
Yeah, and I'd imagine if you can battle through those type of injuries, right, and you're not even getting paid to do it, it's purely out of love and competition and this drive that you have. So if you can do that there, then when it comes to being on an NFL team and you have to learn these different offenses, right, you've already developed that mindset of taking on this challenge and figuring out a way to battle through and ultimately be the best version of yourself.
Yeah, this
So
is what life is about. You're always going to be tested. You're always going to be through adversity. So, there's something I really respect about the football guys, and I'm never taking it away from any other athlete or people, but I just feel like we're so battle tested when it comes to adversity and obstacles, that the game is played under those conditions and those circumstances every single day, whether you're training, whether you're at practice, or whether you're in the game, you're always under some kind of pressure. And so, being able to live through that and grow up through that kind of environment has really prepared me and helped me for the next stages of my life.
oh, I can only imagine. And part of that, you're you parlay getting past all these injury hurdles to 2004. I believe you're all 12. You were able to then get drafted by the Tennessee Titans. You make that roster, and a year later, I believe someone that's a pretty good friend of yours, Vince Young, comes on board. That the Longhorns guys are getting back together in Tennessee. Your rookie year, you come in and you're automatically a contributor, even though you're a sixth-round pick and you might not have the expectations that some of those higher draft picks have. You come in, you immediately contribute. The next year, Vince Young comes on. Do you remember what it was like? Norm Chow comes in as offensive coordinator. They're going to try to change up the scheme. What it was like trying to, all right, I adjusted to the NFL, but now there's a whole new playbook. We're going to change the way we do things. But it's kind of going back to this team that you were with before. What was your mindset around just trying to continually adjust your skill set and learn the different X's and O's being thrown
Well, I've
at you?
always had a real strong football IQ, and I think that's one of the big assets to my game. I always understood stuff. on the football field. Once you show me and you explain something to me, I'm going to get it. I'm going to catch on pretty well. A lot of guys struggle with that in the NFL, and that's why you see a lot of wasted talent because they just can't get the mental side of things. A lot of the NFL and just a higher level of football is more so mental because all the players are great. You know what I'm saying? So what are you doing to help your mental game that's going to give you that edge, that's going to allow you to beat your opponent and compete at a higher level and really make those plays that you need to make because the margin for error and the room for success is just so small. It's a game of inches. So it was an exciting time for Tennessee, though. Now, I had just set, for myself, I just came in as a rookie, 6th-round pick, third tight end, and I set rookie record for catches for tight end. And that tight end group we had, we were number 2 all time, just as a group behind Keller Winslow's father and the group there. So there was a lot of cool things that I got to build off on, and to be able to draft BY, which they weren't 100% sure they wanted to do that. And throughout the year, I was betting on my teammates and just winning tons of money on Texas football. In the Tennessee locker room, it was like, oh, BY is not this. He's not going to do this. And sure enough, here he goes again. He's doing it again. So, we went 4-12 my rookie year, very hard and for me. So I couldn't wait to get to the Rose Bowl and just be around that winning feeling again. So that was an exciting time. And then, we actually drafted him after, that Rose Bowl performance. I think the guys, on the Tennessee roster, they saw what I saw, and it was a great new chapter that started in Tennessee then.
Yeah, and we know how the Vince Young story plays out. That Rose Bowl game is just such an epic game, and this is in no way trying to bag on Vince, but why is it ultimately that not just him, but that type of quarterback has had trouble being successful for long periods of time in the NFL, for a game, maybe even a season, but no one's really doing it for multiple years, not since Mike Vick, where you have this dual threat guy that defenses have to adjust to.
Well, I think a lot of it is at the hands of coaching. I respect being a coach at a high level, especially head coaches. There's so much to manage and stuff. But we have a lot of old minds that aren't very flexible in their methods. Everyone wants to shape you to be the player that they want you to be instead of building to your strengths. And because there's a lot of creativity that has to come with that, a lot of innovation that has to come with dealing with those kind of quarterbacks and unique quarterbacks with unique skill sets. But if I'm paying my quarterback coach or my offensive coordinator $1 million or in the high hundreds of thousands, that's what he needs to be doing. Your job as the coach is to get the best out of your players. And if that calls for changing up certain things or changing up things that you've done in the past, then that's something that you need to do. And you look like an Andy Reid. You don't think he's doing that for Mahomes? You look at Shanahan out there. I'm a big fan of Kyle, and Kyle's one of the few coaches in the NFL that can actually create something around the skill set of his quarterback that he's playing with. We saw it with RG3. As soon as RG3 wanted to go out and branch off and do what he wasn't, naturally doing, he struggled. So a lot of that has to go and fall on the shoulders of the coaching and the staff just to be flexible in their ways and not be so stubborn. When you got a guy who has a unique skill set, let's build things around him and put him in a position to be successful with those skills that he has.
Do you think coaches get a little bit, I don't want to say scared, but I guess they stick to their ways so much because they're making so much money? Maybe it's an OC or a DC that gets paid, a big lump sum of money, and all of a sudden hey, I know this, I'm sticking to my guns, and that's it. And that's why they don't adjust.
It's hard for them to undo things that have made them successful. It's just really hard for them to do that. And, obviously it requires more work too, so there's a lot of factors that, I can see are in play when it comes to, changing a scheme or changing a design of something or changing how we do things here. And especially if you've had success of it working, in the past a certain way, but, evolution just happens in anything. So, I don't see why they wouldn't be more open-minded to it and more receptive to those things.
Sure.
So, you've seen Vince Young up close playing with them. Now, everything that we just said, when you see Kliff Kingsbury in the Kyler Murray experiment that's about to begin, does that to you look like something that lines up where you get a flexible coach, the air raid offense, you get a dynamic athlete who is a little bit shorter than Vince, so that's a big knock against him. But do you think that, at least from where you're sitting, looks like it has a chance to really flourish?
Well, I'm not 100% sold on Kingsbury yet. The NFL
It's a
is a
big
different,
jump. It's a
it's a
huge
different
jump.
beast. It's just a different beast. So, all that stuff that works in college isn't going to work in the pros because these coordinators, they're geniuses too, and they're playing with some great guys. These dudes are flying around and they're smart football players. So they recognize that. So you got to build some deception in that. You're not just going to be able to beat defense on scheme. You're going to have players making big plays out there. And so that's, one of the big differences in the NFL is just, the football IQ of the players, the speed of the game, and being able to really find those things that are going to work. They spend a lot of time to do that. So, he has a great foundational piece, and hopefully he can be a big part in his development. Kyle Murray's, I'm speaking of, in his development as a pro, quarterback. But this is both something new to them. So hopefully he's leaning on some older guys and older coaches, to kind of help them both acclimate to this, the league.
Yeah, for sure. Switching gears a little bit here, though, I wanted to ask you more about the business side because I believe it's the 2010 season you played under a franchise tag. Can you just speak a little bit about what that's like for you as a player? I mean, you're kind of your own. Everyone looks at it as from the team perspective, fans do anyway, but you are your own sort of asset. And when you get sort of handcuffed, you're getting ready for free agency. Now you have this tag, you can't negotiate, but you have to play the year out. What was that like for you, and how did that sort of change your mindset of how you attack your career, like just in the business sense of surviving in the NFL world?
That's one thing that I think, we're not prepared for when we get there. Is just the business side of things. Obviously things are, already slotted when you first get there, but there's a lot of things that you could do as a player to, really max out your career. And you're not really aware of that. You hope that the agents and the people that you have around you are going to always, guide you and give you things that are going to help you and be in your best interest, but that's never the case either. So, it's kind of the luck of the draw. Obviously a franchise tag means your team really does value you, and they want to keep you around and stuff like that. Now, if you can negotiate the number that's good for both of you, that's where the problem always lies. But, as a player, when I got franchise tag, I was making, the year before that $1 million, and obviously that bumps it up to, $4 or $5 million. So, that alone is an incentive for me to want to go out there and an exciting time for me just to be able to get, that kind of pay raise. Everyone loves that. But, that longevity and that security is what guys are looking for. And, it's something that you really, really have to earn. And, some do, some don't. And, sometimes there's a little luck involved too. I mean, I would love to be playing right now and be able to get what some of these tight ends are getting who, they're not really productive, but that's what the market dictates. So it's kind of like a lot of timing and other things involved that really dictate if you get paid or get a big long-term deal or, what is the need out there for teams and stuff. So it was a cool experience to learn. And, obviously you wish you could do things differently, but, I'm just glad it happened.
Yeah, and afterwards, after your NFL career, right, you go and you get your MBA. I'm sure you wish you had a little bit of that knowledge, a few years prior to.
I remember being in class. It was a personal finance class, and I'm raising my hand after every single thing this lady says. And I'm like, finally, my last question I get to her, I'm like, why in the hell am I just learning this right now? I'm 30 years old, and I'm just learning about compounding interest, about credit, all these things that I should have learned before, I signed $1 million deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. But all those classes in high school about all those math classes for stuff that you'll never, you need again, or it's crazy, right? Every guy that we talk to says the same thing. That why am I learning this now? Why wasn't this part of basic knowledge to survive in the world?
Right.
Now, backing up a little bit, when you got into the league and you were handed all this cash, how big of a shock was that to you as a young kid, being able to, having all this money and just talking off the NBA talk and having all that business knowledge? Like, was it, did you have people around you that were able to help you out and guide you? Or is it more of, I just had to me and my family had to figure this out by ourselves?
It was a combination of both, but my mom was an accountant, so she was good with numbers and good with money, so she was already handling money just within her job. And my dad has always been a frugal person, and he works very, very hard for his stuff. So I didn't have that burden that a lot of people have with people just coming out the woodworks and picking and trying to get stuff from me, which is awesome luxury, just to be able to have family members that they can just help you take care of certain things, and you don't have to worry about it. And you don't have to worry about them stealing from it. So
Yeah, because I think
you're never ready for that.
Yeah,
that type of money. You're not supposed to have it at that kind of age.
Exactly. Yeah, and people coming out with their hands out too, like, "Hey, you remember me from I helped you with this, and throw me a couple bucks here." And I can only imagine the amount of people that come out of nowhere when you get on and you start playing as well as you did.
Right.
Now, I'm really interested, we've already hit on the NBA, but what you've done after your playing days. But just to wrap this up, can you just talk a little bit about your decision, 2011, you play a year with the Bengals, what that was like, and then the following year, you're in the training camp time, in June, you were with the Patriots, just sort of you're in one NFL franchise for most of your career, and then in 2 years, you get a taste of how two different teams do it. What were your sort of takeaways from just the time, however long it is, with those teams, those players, those coaches?
That not everybody is having fun in the league. Tennessee was a great place, a great culture. Jeff Fisher, as a coach, he really let the veterans patrol everything. So, and he made it enjoyable. Like he made it what the league is supposed to be about. You come in, you work super, super hard, and then when we win, we celebrate. Going to the Bengals, and these are just different philosophies from coaches. Marvin Lewis was a real hard-nosed guy. We're banging a lot in practice, and we're staying in dorm rooms at a Division III college. So everyone has a different philosophy. Every organization is different. You go to the Patriots, they have the Patriot way. I see why they're so successful being up there. But if you ask those guys, are they having a lot of fun in between the season or training? They're probably going to tell you no. They're having fun when they're hosting up the Super Bowl trophy at the end of the year. So there's just different cultures, and not everybody is receptive to it, but you can't knock the people who are winning, and you can't be telling them like, oh, well, this isn't going to work for us because they got the results to prove it. So, but I want the NFL to be this enjoyable experience, and I wish all the players are hopefully getting that, because it's a time in your life that you'll never ever get to live again, and that you just need to enjoy. And you're one of the few to be able to ever have to experience that. There's only been like 30,000 dudes ever to play in the NFL in the history of the game.
Yeah, and it's such a small, exclusive group. And then of those that are even still alive today that you wanted to talk to and contact, I mean, I'd imagine that number is, significantly less. So it's, I'm glad you have that perspective. Now, I did want to ask, though, because everyone gets a chance to do it, everyone that has that time eventually ends. So from what I could see anyway, after your stint with the Patriots in the training camp part of the year, that was the last of the NFL life of Bo Scaife. So what was it like for you? How did you consider what your next steps were? Were you ready to hang it up and just walk away? What was that decision like? And then ultimately the transition of, okay, well, what now?
For the first time in my life when I was with the Patriots, Robert Kraft was speaking to the team, and I just had this, epiphany or revelation of, I really didn't want to play football for some reason anymore. And I always saw myself when I'm looking at the owner of the Patriots who built this great organization. I'm like, that's who I need to be. So my perspective has shifted. And I always wanted to go on and do something bigger and build and create something just like Mr. Kraft did and like all these other owners have. You take something and you build it into something great. And so, football has given me the knowledge and the education of how to do that, because that's what building a team and an organization is all about. You pull together people, you put together a game plan and ideas, and then we all work together and we call plays and we win. So, that's kind of, what I've tried to model my life after football with anything I do now. One thing that guys suffer that, we haven't really spoke about is just, the aftermath of the game itself, and I think that kind of makes things harder for guys because obviously you're being deprived of this game you love, but now you're left as damaged goods. You have the head injuries, you have the physical ailments, and you suffer from the depression. You miss the camaraderie in the locker room. So, you've gained a whole lot financially and with experiences and those type of things, but you also have lost a lot just by, being through that beast. And once you're out, some guys are really left, beat up and battered and, in a very severe conditions. And so that's something else now that you got to put on your shoulders and carry with you the rest of your life. And the only people that are really there to pick it up are, your close peers and your family members. And, that's hard for, my 10-year-old to explain to my 10-year-old daughter sometimes is, why does daddy feel this way? Or why isn't daddy excited, to come do this and those type of things? Because she doesn't really understand those type of things. But, you know, I have to find a way to still do that. And I think football, obviously has ingrained that in us, be able to push through things. But, it is tough for guys.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine, I can only imagine how tough it is for guys. And some guys get out, relatively good, and other guys cannot say the same. And this brings me to something that I know is something that you care about. Now, I don't know much about it. I did see that last year on Bleacher Report, you were part of their 420 thing that they had put together. So I know that you have a pro cannabis stance. Now, from where you're sitting, how has cannabis, among other things, helped you to deal with some of those physical issues or even mental issues that you've had as a result of the game, whether it's relaxation, whether it's pain relief? And in general, just what are your feelings on it and how it should be used, whether recreationally or just in the NFL realm?
Well, I'd like to, speak about it as, adult use. First of all, it should be for mature adults and stuff like that. But as far as the benefits, I had to really go and learn and educate myself on those things and, really understanding that. And I wanted to do that. I wanted to learn, about this plant because, as we all know, just from a young age, for me, myself personally, I was on those pills. I was taking painkillers. I was taking all that stuff. And, I remember those things making me feel bad and not make me feel good. You remember how alcohol has made you feel, late nights and stuff. So just back to, cannabis, I just think, it does have some extreme benefits and people really need to do the education and get the knowledge around it. I think it's great for anxiety. I think it's great for, alternative to all the stuff out here that people are being fed. And that's what we really need to figure out and stress upon is, is this better than this is? And it's already been proven that it is. We don't need to be pumping ourselves full of pills. And the things that these players are doing just to get yourself to practice and to be ready to play is not healthy in the long term. And it's not even healthy in the short term, but this is the traditional way of doing things. And this goes back to, the doctors and the trainers and everybody unlearning what they've already learned and learning something new and an alternative. So, that's a lot of work and a lot of money involved. And, that's why it's moving so slow.
Okay. Yeah, because I mean, and I guess that goes back to the whole coaching thing, right? Is like learning something new. And as far as like the trainer staff, like they know this, why would they, to your point, go out with more money, spend more money to try to learn something new to try to help their athletes out, especially if they're just able to dish out, which it's very sad to say, just dish out painkillers and just say, kind of go away, as opposed to treating it with the cannabis or learning more about it that could possibly be another solution.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, dealing with decades and decades of stigma is not easy, but at least in recent years, we've seen a lot of progress in that front. Hopefully it continues. It definitely feels like it will with how all the different states are passing legislation.
Yeah.
Right.
But, Bo, as we try to wrap this up now, I know that that's not the only thing that you care about. It's not the only thing that you have your hand in. So I know that you have Fresh Ed Life. Can you talk just a little bit about that and everything else that you're doing today? Because I know that you're also a speaker and getting your message out there.
Yeah, I mean, a big thing for me was just being able to, give back. That's one of the biggest things, one of the things that Nick Brown instilled in all of us is just how to give back and use these experiences and your unique stories to help other people. So, I love going to these schools and talking to the young athletes and just kind of helping guide them through the problems and issues that they're going to be dealing with coming up.
Our job as, you know, the elder statesmen now and the coaches and, you know, the people, the counselors is to be a voice of reason for them, you know, to help them guide them because, you know, they don't know the answers back then. We didn't know the answers when we were coming up. And so to be able to have that support system and people like that around you in your life to keep you from, you know, making bad decisions and not having to learn everything the hard way is extremely important. Obviously, you know, life is to be experienced, so you have to go through things and you have to learn certain things. But if we can just save ourselves a little bit of trouble along the way, you know, it's a huge advantage to us.
Ran a little long. Thank you so much for taking the time, man. Your message is awesome. Where can everyone follow you on social media and keep up with what you're doing?
Yeah, man, I'm at Mr.Scaife 80 on IG, Bo Scaife 80 on Twitter. So yeah, I'm easy to find, man. I'm always around, and you know, I appreciate you guys as being able to link up with the guys so they can kind of tell their story and, you know, get their information out.
Absolutely. It's certainly a pleasure on our end. And I hope you know that the door is always open in case you have anything that you're about to embark on. You want to get the message out there, give us a call. We'd be more than happy.
All right, I appreciate it, fellas.
All right.
All right.
Thanks
Thanks,
again,
Bo.
Bo.